And so how I'm going to do this is there's a couple of different things that happen through my life, and that ended in a really weird kind of moment. Um, and it answers a lot of weird questions. Now, this is not so much a ghost story, but it does involve a lot of ghost type stories, if that makes sense. But I'm going to try to make this pretty quick. It's pretty more long and drawn out story, but I'm going to try to make this kind of quick. There was something that happened to me when I was really young. Well, I had a few things happen to me when I was really young, but this particular thing terrified me to the point that I just forgot about it, like it didn't happen, like it didn't exist. So fast forward into my teenage years, my young teenage years, and around that time, actually before that time, I was having really bad dreams, like really crazy messed up dreams. One of my most talked about dream that I had, I actually wrote a short story about it called, I think I called the, at one point I called it the Midnight Lantern, the other time I called it, I think Hall of Flies or Lantern of Flies or something like that. And just real quickly, it's better if you read it in the short story aspect of it. But quickly, it was a really common dream. I had quite a bit, where I woke up in the beginning of this hallway, no doors or windows to speak of. It was really dim and dark, and I was just sitting, like laying in this puddle. I was soaking wet. It was cold, and I finally get up and I'm shaking, and all the light that I see is down in this hallway, and it's an old-timey lantern. And so I eventually make my way down there, and there's just flies just buzzing around it, real loud, I mean, just echoing off these walls. And so I go to reach for it to grab it, and my thought process was to use this to keep going down the hallway, trying to find a door or a window or something. And then as I grab it, the light turned off, and then the light turned back on, and this time the light was below me, but all around me, but below me mostly. And but I couldn't move. And after a while, I realized I couldn't breathe, and I was tied up. And all of a sudden, I started seeing bubbles, rolling across my face, and going upwards and stuff. And then I realized I'm submerged and I can't breathe because I'm underwater. And so I suffocate until I black out. And then I wake up, and I'm at the end of the hallway again, laying in a puddle of water, looking down a hallway at an old-timey lantern. And it was just a constant reoccurring nightmare. But that was only one of many. I had so many. Another thing I suffer from is the paralyzing type nightmares or whatever, where you're like half awake, half asleep.
Sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. I couldn't think of what it was called. But one of the things that really is scary is I can't breathe, or I'm having a hard time breathing, to the point where I don't have very often, but where I try to reach over to my wife at the time, and trying to like grab her and try to wake her up to wake me up the rest of the way, because I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And they're just the most terrifying things I can think of. So around that time, me and my mom watched this movie called St. Francisville Experiment, and and it's actually directed by the guy who did the Blair Witch movies. Now I doubt it's real. It's played to be like it's a real thing, but it is based off a real person in a real place, in a real mansion, about a woman who used her slaves as a way to basically just torture people, just evil, absolutely evil. And I won't get into the things that she did, the ways that she tortured, because they're really, really messed up. You can look into it, if you want, but it's pretty messed up what some of the things she did there. But there's a scene where there's this girl who claims she's a psychic, right? And it's pretty eye rolling, kind of like okay,
Yeah.
with like certain things she says and does, and it's just like she comes off more or less as those people who claim, they probably believe it, but like it's kind of like that's not. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but
Charlatan.
yeah, just I don't know. Just kind of like, that's just Cheryl. She does that. And just roll your eyes and just play along. She'll stop
Yeah.
talking about it. Yeah, it's kind of one of those kind of things. And so anyway, so she ventures off, into by herself into this room. She's talking to herself in a mirror, and all of a sudden this hand, I get goosebumps every time I'm thinking about it. This hand reaches out of the blue, and like grabs her shoulder, and she turns and sees this thing and attacks her, and it was scary or whatever. So anyway, movie's done, and my mom said, "Hey, because I always hated folding clothes. So mom's like, well, hey, will you put these clothes up? And I was like, okay, yeah. So I always put the clothes up. That was kind of my thing. So I didn't have to fold clothes or whatever. So I grabbed the big deal of towels and I take it to the bathroom. I come back around, going through the hallway. My mom grabs my shoulder, just like in that movie. And I swear to God, I hit my head on top of the ceiling. I jumped so high. I'm not a crier. I just don't. I
You're
just
just
never had
so
it in me.
unbelievably masculine. Like way more. You're way more tough than your average male. Is what you're saying.
It's not that. It's just I don't really cry very easily at all.
Right.
And
You're
I
saying
don't
you
care
have
about.
3 testicles. I get what you're saying. Go on.
It's not about that. I promise. But and I guess I bring that up because like I don't like that's I just want you to understand that's how devastating it was for me. That
Right.
as soon as she did that, I immediately ran and hid because I couldn't stop crying. I was crying so much, and I was shaking unbelievably. I felt like I was having a seizure. I guess something I probably should have said first was, I've actually died before, or I've had 5 separate issues. I don't remember all of them. My parents don't want to talk about it, but I had asthma as a kid. My dad found me blue face, purple lip, not breathing, no pulse, that kind of stuff. I had a seizure out of the blue as a kid. I drowned, and my uncle brought me back. And I don't remember all the other ones. Like I said, mom and dad don't talk about it. But so like I don't know if that has anything to do with it or who knows. But so I've had like a bunch of just on top of that, everything else. But anyway, so I was thinking maybe I'm having a seizure, but all of a sudden I just have all this things come and hit me all at once. Of when I was little, I was playing hide and go seek with my cousins. We're at my grandma's house on my dad's side, where I saw my granddad, walking around, who I've never met, and there was this middle bedroom that I went into to hide. And I thought this is the best place to hide because Grandma had all these really old jackets, and they smelled really bad, but I could hide in between them, and they're really heavy or whatever. But it was one of those sliding doors for the closet, so I slid the door open really quietly, because it slid. So I was like, and then I, slid it really slowly so it wouldn't be so loud. And I, pushed myself into all these heavy jackets and whatever. And I sat there in the dark, just giggling to myself because like, oh, they'll never find me, right? I may have been 4, 5. I was there for a while. And then behind me, I heard something. Maybe I could have swore it was like breathing or whatever, but it could have easily been the ventilation kind of whistling into the closet somehow. I mean, it could be anything. But it was just, I remember feeling so uncomfortable, so heavy. I don't know, I don't know, like just that weight on your shoulders just slowly weighing you down. And I just felt really like I had to get out of there. But it was only within seconds that I felt that. And then all of a sudden, the heaviest hand placed itself quickly onto my shoulder. And I remember being so heavy. And I remember I was crawling out of my skin. I remember running headfirst into the door, trying to get out. And then I was clawing at the door. And just trying to open it, and didn't realize it slid, not opens, and so I slid it out. I ran out. I the every single step, I felt like something was to grab my leg and pull me back into that closet. And I remember heading out that room, and I don't remember how I got to down the hallway, went down the hallway, and turned and went to that playroom, the same playroom I saw my granddad. Went into that playroom. I remember my cousin saying something about, I'm supposed to find you, not you find me, or something. I don't remember. It was something along those lines. A sarcastic type thing. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was something like that. And I just remember being really confused, and like I just kept staring at nothing. And then that was it. It's like I just remember saying I don't want to play anymore, and I just sat on the couch, and that was it. And then didn't the next day completely forgot anything ever happened until that moment when I was like, I think I was like 14, 15. And so with that said, I had pretty much dealt with night terrors and bad dreams and all these things, and I didn't believe in psychics at all. I had a friend who his mom calls me up one day. She goes, "I need you to come over." And I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm in trouble." But I didn't say anything. She goes, I need you over here." I was like, "Okay." And so I show up. I was like 16. I drive up to his place. I remember going in there, and either her husband wasn't there, or I think he was leaving, and he goes, "Oh, she's inside," or something. I don't remember exactly. And so I remember going in the house. I remember asking, "Well, hey, is Jordan here?" And she goes, "No, he's not here." I was like, "Oh shit, I'm really in trouble now." Like, what did I do? And she goes, "Can you have a sit on the can you sit on the couch?" And right there. I was like, and actually no, was Jordan actually there? I think Jordan was actually there. I don't know. That's how long ago it's been. I don't really remember. Anyway, I remember sitting on the couch, and she told me that she has seizures, but when she has seizures, sometimes she sees stuff. Now, knowing people who have seizures, sometimes they hallucinate. So I'm just like, oh, okay. She told me that a Chickasaw man, a Cherokee man, and a Choctaw woman came up to her. And they told her that I was going to be this writer, and that I was going to write about the Trail of Tears because my great-great-grandmother was in it as a child, and that I lost people there, and that they called me Little Raven, and that was my native name, or my Indian name, and just all these things. And then she gave me this dream catcher that she made herself. She made this thing because she said, "You're suffering from dreams, from bad dreams. Put this above your bed and it'll stop." So okay, all this information, right? I didn't believe in psychics. I just pretty much ignored everything, right, ghost wise. And get home, and then kind of I think like that weekend, I think I finally told my mom about it, and put that dream catcher above my bed. And sure enough, I literally stopped having those dreams. Now I kept having my cool dreams, I would have like consecutive dreams where like I would continue the story, or like these, you've read, I'm pretty sure, some of my dreams that I post on Facebook, like my really in-depth dreams I have. I still get those, but I never got those bad dreams I used to get, or the ones that are just constant, the same thing over and over again, because of everything, I'm very claustrophobic. So being paralyzed in my sleep's like the worst thing you can possibly think of. And I barely, I still get those, but they're not very often. And I actually get them more so now than I did then, because I no longer use that dream catcher. My children all have suffered, except from the baby, have suffered from night terrors, like bad night terrors, and it either slowed or completely stopped when I put that dream catcher above where they're sleeping, and then that's when I started getting the sleep paralysis again. So it's kind of crazy like that. But anyway, so like some of the things that she told me, we didn't find out till like years. Some of the things years later, that, oh hey, by the way, you're we actually have Choctaw in our blood too. Not only are we Chickasaw and Cherokee, we're Choctaw, mostly Chickasaw, but or like something I forgot what it was. It was something about my great great uncle that we didn't know about until after she told us, and then we found out years later. And like, mom never told me that my great great grandmother was in the Trail of Tears as a kid, and we lost some family members there, and like all this other stuff. And then many years later, I got into writing, and I hated reading. You know, I wasn't I did art, and that was it. And I got heavily into writing, and now my goal in life is to be an author, author and illustrator. And so it's just all these things that just happen. And yeah, she could have influenced me maybe, but some of the things that we found out years later that had nothing to do with me or my mom, that it's just like cousins came to, oh, hey, by the way, this is a new thing we found out about our family. You know, it's just, it's crazy. And so anyway, yeah, that dream catcher kind of saved me. I mean, and now I use it for my kids, you know, to save them from their night terrors. And it's a crazy story.
I actually have a lot of sleeping disorders as well. I feel like sometimes a lot of, you know, late night experiences like things that you experience while you're asleep or briefly after waking up can be related to some sleeping disorders. Like I had I've never had sleep paralysis, thank God. I do know what it is. A lot of times, like a lot of people have it, more or less describe it the same way. A lot of times they'll feel like somebody's sitting on their chest, or they can't move. A lot of times, often can't breathe, like you said, or a difficulty breathing. And then they're awake, and then you have a intense feeling that there's someone in the room with you. A lot of times, or at least people who describe it. I've never experienced it myself, but I did have night terrors and somnambulism, which is night terrors are just a form of somnambulism, really. And I have a lot of other sleeping disorders, like now. I didn't always have them, but restless leg syndrome, which is, I remember the first time I saw a thing for RLS, like a commercial or an ad. I thought it was one of the funnier things that I'd seen. Like, I thought it was funny, like, I don't know, like that was a, like, it's like, oh, I just can't stop moving my legs. And I was like, that seems silly to me. Now, I was young, so it's like, but I was like, that's a very silly thing. Like, that doesn't seem like something that would be real, because it's not like that their legs were just shaking or something. They just couldn't not move them until I got it. And now I have RLS, and it is very unpleasant, and it's not at all funny. And I completely understand now. So, like, you need to constantly be, when you are in a resting position and sometimes a prolonged sitting position, the nerves, like the nerves sort of, like, I guess, I don't know if it's a sciatic nerve or whatever, but it's the nerve up in my butt and my upper thighs and stuff like that. It feels irritated in the sense that I feel like, to not feel discomfort, I need to be moving my legs. Otherwise, there's sort of intense discomfort, and it will sort of twitch or jerk, and I will sometimes spontaneously move my leg and involuntarily. And and it's impossible. And the reason why it's so frustrating is because it makes it nearly impossible to sleep at night. Because well, I mean, it's not. I can find a way to do it by pulling my legs up next to me, like putting bending my knees and pulling my legs up or whatever like that, depending on which way I'm facing, and it sort of somewhat alleviates the issue. But yeah, I will involuntarily kick in my sleep because of the irritated nerve, and it makes me will wake me up. Very frustrating. That and apnea, which I've had ever since even I was little. I'll stop breathing in my sleeps. A lot of different sleeping disorders, not pleasant. Certainly not conducive to, you know, your mental health and having a good night's sleep. But to get back on point, my final story is more recent, and the reason why I chose this one for last is because I had multiple um, encounters of weird things, and they it takes place more recently, some years back. I was already with Jessica. You know who Jessica is,
Mm-hmm.
and I was already with her, but we hadn't been together long. And the house I was in when I met her, we were moving out of, and we moved into a new home, which was on California Street. Anyone not familiar with the area, that means nothing. But um, it was on uh, this main street kind of thing, and it was a very old house. And I wanted to rent it because it was very picturesque and pretty. It was a two-story, and I didn't realize until after we had gotten it that it looks almost exactly like the house from Nightmare on Elm Street. At first, I thought it looked like the Amityville Horror House, but it doesn't. If you compare the
Ooh.
two, first I thought it looked like the Amityville Horror House. It doesn't. It looks like it, but it looks just like the house from Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, that didn't bother me, not even in the slightest. But I'll say this: the house is extremely creepy. At first, I just really wanted it badly because it was so pretty, and it was pretty. But at nighttime, not nearly as much. It is very creaky. It's very noisy. Of course, a lot of that has to do with older homes. They make noises, thermal expansion and contraction,
Mm-hmm.
due to heat that absorbs during the day and releases at night and stuff like that. It's like this happens, but that's not the problems that bothered me. What bothered me are some of the following things that I will describe. So, um, three specific incidences. When we first moved in, and this is all around the time we first moved in. Actually, it seemed to taper off after that. But we moved in, and the upstairs area. Whenever you go right into the upstairs, you go right up the steps. The upstairs bathroom was immediately on your left hand side. It was a very small bathroom, almost all entirely pink tile, very old. Everything in this house was ancient. The doorknobs were so freaking old. Like they used skeleton keys, which we didn't have, and they're very strange. I mean, they were lovely. Just um, if you're used to more modern hardware fixtures and things like that, they're really weird. But all hardwood floors upstairs. It was a very nice house, but that little bathroom was extremely claustrophobic and only had one tiny little half window sort of thing in it. And it doesn't really bother me. I'm not too claustrophobic, but the reason why I'm mentioning the bathroom is 'cause that's where the first incident took place. So we had just sort of freshly moved in. We'd had friends come over and help us move stuff in this day. Well, I'm needing to take a shower. So I told Jessica I'm going to take a shower. Now, you know that we have our cat, Fatty. Um, she was getting to know the new house. Well, I'm I go into the bathroom and I get ready to take a shower. I get in the shower. I'm using it. And in the middle of my shower, the door to the bathroom. Now, the door was unlocked. I didn't lock it. I don't usually lock the bathroom door unless there's a reason why I need to. Like if there's, company over who's not, part of the family. I mean, you're Jessica, basically.
Right.
Um, well, the door, it pushes. It goes boom, like somebody's pushing on it. It does it once, and I just stop. I kind of look at the door, listen, and then it does it again. Pushes on the door. And my first inclination was that it was the cat because Fatty will do that. She'll bump up against the door, kind of trying to get your attention or whatever like that. So I'm like, Fatty, and I'm calling to her, no answer, and I'm going like trying to get because she'll meow because she wants you to realize she's there or to let her in or anything like that. Well, nothing. No bumps again. So I'm like, okay. And then I start thinking, oh, I bet pressure change, internal air pressure change. Jessica opened the front door, shut the front door, something like that. I'm like, all right, I'm showering because I was trying to figure out why did the door just because I was at my, I was gonna ask for Jessica, but I was like, no, Jessica wouldn't do that. I was like, so it's Fatty. Wasn't Fatty, I guess, or if it was, she wouldn't answer me, which basically happens 0% of the time. She will always cry whenever you call out to her. Usually she's crying when she's bumping up against the door. If she's not, you call out to her, she cries. Well, she wasn't. So I was thinking she probably bumped up against the door and then went downstairs or went off to explore. She wasn't there anymore. Well, then I'm showering. A couple minutes later, the door handle to the door goes and turns. Okay, so one thing I should point out, it's one of those sideways. It's not like a round door handle. It's like a one of those bars, sort of you turn to the side or pull down. You know what I'm talking about?
Kind of like my
Okay,
house.
so it's yeah, I guess so. I don't really remember how but yes, I'm probably. Um, the door handle goes and turns about halfway, and then goes back. I was like, the fuck? I'm waiting because I was thinking Jessica's about to open the door. She doesn't. And I'm like, Jessica, no answer, and then door handle goes, and this time goes all the way down, right? Really quickly. This goes all the way down, but the door doesn't open. And then it just goes, I'm like, Jessica? And she just goes, and then it goes back and forth, up and down, up and down. And I was like, it's unlocked. I'm yelling at her, right? And then no answer. And then it stops. I was like, baby? I was like, you coming in? And then the door handle very fastly goes like that, up and down. I was like, Jessica, it's I'm irritated at this point. Because I'm like, it's unlocked, right? Because I think she's trying to irritate me. Like, she's like, I need to get in the bathroom, right? And I was just like, because I realized I was like, I'm going to have to get out of the shower to show her that the door is unlocked, right? And so I'm yelling at her. I was like, it's unlocked, like that. And then nothing, just that door handle doing that. And it stops doing it. And I was just like, waiting. She doesn't open the door. I was like, okay, fuck this. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just fucking get out and be cold. So I get out and I go and I open the door and I pull the door open and I'm sticking my head out to say it's unlocked like that. Like I'm thinking like she couldn't hear me. And then it also dawned on me right before I opened the door. I was like, maybe it's jammed because I'm not really familiar. Maybe this door jams a little bit. But as I throw open the door, no one's there. It's just me yelling at myself. And then I'm looking around and I don't see anybody or the cat. I'm like, Jessica, like that. And she was like, yes, are you? And she was like, are you talking to me? Because I guess she had heard me yelling. And she was like, what? And I was just like, were, were you up here just now? And she's like, upstairs? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, no. I'm like, you weren't trying to get into the bathroom just now? And she was like, no. I was like, not at all. Like, not like a couple minutes ago or something. And she was like, no, I haven't been upstairs at all. She's like, I've been down here right now. She was washing dishes or something. And I was just like, oh no. Because I'm real now I'm really afraid because I'm standing right where this happened, and the door handle was not, it wasn't like it could have been partially turned down and then just sort of popped back into position. It was being yanked down repeatedly, quickly, like someone was trying to open the door, but the door's not locked and the door never opened. Just the door handle moving. This was impossible. I could not come up with a rational explanation of what happened. And so I very quickly finished drying off and put on the, and I went downstairs and I was like, baby. And she was like, what? And I basically tell her what happened. And she was like, are you serious? And I was like, yes. And I was like, I am not fucking dreaming. I started worrying. I was like, I was like, am I going crazy? Because I was like, mental illness, family, kind of. I was like, am I going nuts? I was like, if I'm crazy, I'm still sane enough to realize it, I guess. But I was like, and Jessica's like, I don't think you're crazy. But neither of us could come up with a rational explanation of what had happened. I was like, is there anybody here? And she's like, no. And I was like, was there anybody here though? Did anybody come in at all? Maybe somebody, like a friend, because we had just helped friends had helped us move our stuff in. Maybe an hour prior to that. I was like, did somebody show up again? Maybe somebody's fucking with me while I was in the bathroom. She's like, no. She's like, unless somehow they snuck upstairs, did it, and then snuck out without saying anything to me. And I was just like, what the fuck? So Jessica,
Fatty could have been.
no, no, impossible. There's no way. Not the way. Not the way. The only possibility that's even remote. First off, she's never done that. Not in her entire life. She's not tall enough to reach the door handle by herself on her hind legs. But it's a possibility that she may have jumped up. It's extremely unlikely because I've never seen her do anything like this ever. But it is within the realm of possibility that she jumped up to grab the door handle, like to fuck, with her paws or whatever like that, and managed to pull it down once. But the door handle was going like that, as though somebody were violently pulling it downward. I'm not even sure she would be able to exert enough force, and Jessica agrees, she would not be able to exert enough force on that door handle to fully pull it down, much less fucking yank it down repeatedly the way it was doing, like somebody was angrily trying to get in the door. That's what, and I thought it was Jessica. I thought Jessica, because we did have two bathrooms, but I was thinking that Jessica is trying to get into that bathroom. She's upstairs. She's trying to get this bathroom. She doesn't want to go all the way downstairs and down to the other bathroom. So when this was happening, I was thinking she was basically couldn't get the door open, or was it? I'm thinking she's not pushing on the door. Maybe the door's a little, I'm yelling at her that it's not locked, so that she puts some fucking effort into it. If all she's doing is pulling down the handle, and I eventually got mad and got out of the fucking bathroom, and she was not there. She swore to me, she's like, haven't even come upstairs. And so I'm freaked out. Well, she comes upstairs with me. We go back upstairs, and we look around and everything like that, and nothing fucking really going on. Well, I come upstairs, and she goes back downstairs, and I come upstairs, and I'm looking around more. Now there's one other room upstairs, one that we didn't use. It was an old, creepy ass old little bedroom, not the main bedroom, but it was one that was upstairs, a smaller one. We used it for storage. Well, it was mostly empty at this time. I go upstairs and I go into the bedroom, and it smells like it's on fire. Now, I'd already been in it today. I go in it and it smells not smoky. It smells like I just walked into a room full of smoke, like chokingly, as though it's fucking on fire. I'm like, what the fuck? Like that, and it's intense. And I was like, shit. So I'm freaking out, not because I think that this is a fucking supernatural thing,
Right.
but because I think that there's an electrical fire or something. And so I'm like, I go and I'm touching the walls, and I don't feel any heat. So I run up and I go downstairs, and I'm like, and I yell. I was like, Jessica, Jessica, and she's like, what? I was like, come up, come up, come up. And she's like, okay. So she runs upstairs, and we go back in the thing, and she's like, oh my god. I was like, yes, something is burning, right? So, and then we're looking all around, we can't find it. It was intense, and then Jessica's like, wait a minute. Somebody outside could be burning. I was like, you're right. Somebody outside could be burning something. It just smells. But when you walk out of the room, you can't smell it at all. And that was fucking freaky as shit to me. Because we walked out of the room, and it's literally as though it doesn't exist. Just in the room. But I was like, okay, so we go downstairs, we go outside. Nothing. No one's burning. We don't smell it anywhere outside. Now this all happens in the span of less than a minute because we just go straight downstairs, go straight outside, walk, and we're walking around. And it's like, and we're like, we're smelling, and we're looking around to see if the neighbors are barbecuing, burning anything. Nothing. So we go back upstairs. We walk back into the bedroom again, and it smells like it's fucking on fire. And so I was like, help me feel the walls, feel if there's heat. So she's like, okay. So we're going around. I was like, just feel if you feel heat anywhere. So we're going all around the fucking room and nothing. And I was like, where is this fucking burning smell coming from? She's like, I don't know. And we can't figure it out. So we take a step out. I was like, let's try on the outside. So we step out of the room, and of course, the smell is immediately gone. No smell. I was like, feel the walls here. So for the next few seconds, we're feeling the walls outside of the room. Nothing. And I was like, okay. I was like, I was like, can you think of anything that could be causing this? And she's like, no. And I was like, I'm just afraid there's a fucking electrical fire. So now we stepped out of the room. We're out of the room no more than 30 seconds at most. We felt the walls. We walk back into the room. It's gone. The smell is completely gone.
That is
Like it
crazy.
was never there. Like it was never there. This one, I have a fucking witness for because Jessica was with me. She can attest to this one. It was as though it would. Now, I'm talking, we were out of the room for seconds. There's no way in hell. We walked back in and there was no smell, zero smell, as though it never fucking existed. It was so fucking freaky and unsettling that at this point, these two things happen in succession. I believe these two happened the same day. And this is all in broad daylight. This is all in the middle of the day. Nowhere near. No, I had been awake for, hours, plenty of hours. Not tired, not exhausted, nothing like that. Middle of the day, broad daylight. So and this gave us something to talk about the rest of the day. Well, I believe that was Jessica's one and only experience with the weirdness. I unfortunately, Jessica was working third shift at the time, and I had the unfortunate circumstance of having to stay there at nighttime by myself. Well, we just moved in. We don't have all of our stuff set up yet, so the bedroom's not set up, and I didn't want to sleep upstairs by myself, especially with no bed or anything like that set up. So what I did was we set up. We had the mattress, and the bed wasn't set up or anything, but I laid the mattress down on the ground in the living room, which is where it stayed for about a month, I think, till we were fully in. And I'd lay the mattress down on the ground, and I would just sleep in there, and I'd watch shit on my laptop using the internet. I would watch different shit. One of the things I'd watch was Conan O'Brien. I liked watching Conan O'Brien on there. So at nighttime when I was going to sleep. Well, so this is the final story. There was some other weird shit, but just not really worth mentioning. But Jessica left for work, and I was there by myself. And this is just after she had left for work. I'm laying there. I'm watching Conan O'Brien in the living room, sleep in the bed and laughing at it. And Fatty is there keeping me company. So Fatty is there sort of laying in front of me, next to me on the bed, just with her little paws tucked up under her chest and all comfortable and stuff. And so I'm sitting there watching the thing laughing. All right. So at this point, I start to hear something. And at first I thought it was on my laptop. And I was like, is that an ad or something? Because I'm hearing it. It's very faint. And what it sounds like is whispering, but it's incoherent. Oh. Okay. So before that, something else happened.
Mhm.
We're sitting there, and then loudly, I hear from the vents. So the AC, how the central AC worked in this house is it had the ground vents, right? So it had the ventilation system run beneath the floor. Through the vent, I hear a loud scraping, as though something is dragging itself through the vents.
That's unsettling.
It's extremely. But this one, while it was loud and just started, didn't really scare me too much because I think one of the repairmen that we had to have over for something, because it was around house, said that there was like raccoons or something living under the house or something. I can't remember that there was a raccoon
Some
under
kind
there
of
or something.
explanation.
Yeah, in my mind, when I first heard this, it made me jump, and it sounds like something just sort of pulled. The weird thing is the way that the thing was going was not like little rapid scratches of nails as something is running or moving.
Mm.
It was long. I don't know how to
Dragging,
simulate it for you. Yeah, it was a long
dragging
dragging like this. It
sound.
would go like like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was coming from the vent, and it was coming through the vent. It sounded like it was something was inside of it. Still, regardless, I thought that it was a animal. But at this point, I'm a little bit more, unnerved because of the other shit that had happened earlier in the month. Well, um, I ignore it and eventually stops. I'm watching Conan O'Brien. Fatty's there with me. Well, then I start hearing the whispering. So I start hearing this sort of sounds like kind of sounds like that, right?
Whew.
It's clearly whispering, but it's incoherent. And at first I'm like, is that an ad? And I'm looking, and then so I stop it. I pause Conan O'Brien. I stop it, and I still hear it. It's going, and now it's getting louder, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what the fuck? And then just to clarify, I have, I've, I keep up with my physical health and with my mental health. I do not have any mental disorders, with the exception of clinical anxiety disorder, which I didn't even have to treat with medication. But I'm completely sane. No auditory or visual hallucinations, nothing like that. I'm completely sane. Mental illness does run in our family. I don't have any of it. None of those the serious things like that. So I'm hearing this whispering and it's getting louder, and I'm getting really scared. I was like, what the fuck is that? Because I don't know what it is. Because what's going through my mind is there anything running in the house? I started thinking, is there anything running in the house that could be making this noise? Like something that could be playing media or anything. Well, the noise is getting louder and it sounds like it's approaching me, like towards my head from behind. It's getting loud. So just for I don't know what it sounds like on your end for audio, but just to try to give a frame of reference, it starts to get loud and it starts to sound about like this. It's like something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now what's really scaring me, not only is that happening, but Fatty was laying there, just sort of comfortable, relaxed, and once this happens, she jerks her head, looking just over my right shoulder, which is where the sound is coming from, by my perception anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And just looking like she has her eyes open. Now she doesn't look. She doesn't have her ears pinned back. She doesn't have like she's defensive or anything like that. But as though something got her attention, and she goes whoop, and yanks her head and looks, and she's just staring right over my right shoulder where the sound's coming from. And like I said, it's getting louder. It's like it's approaching. She's looking at it. And I was just like, and I don't know what to do because I'm horrified.
Mm-hmm.
And Fatty just goes, and like after a second, she gets up and she starts walking around the side of my arm because I've got myself propped up toward the shoulder. And as she does, and she approaches my shoulder where the thing is going, the sound is getting quiet. It's like it's backing away. And she keeps walking. I see her walk past me because her tail passes my head. So she's continuing to walk because I won't move. I won't turn my head. And the sound is getting fainter as she's walking. It's like it's moving with her, going towards the thing. And as it's getting more faint, where I can kind of barely hear it, I'm like, okay, and I sort of close my eyes real tight for like a moment of trying to grab at my nerve, and I turn around to look. So all I see is Fatty turning the corner of the next room where she's walking. And I feel, and I can barely hear the whispering. And as she turns the corner going into the other room, I can't hear it anymore. And she's gone for a couple of minutes. And I'm just sitting there waiting. And then after a couple of minutes, she comes walking back into the room, sits down right there in front of me where she was laying, looking at me just sort of directly in my eyes, blinking, just sort of looking at me. I'm like, Fatty. And then she just goes, lays down, gets comfortable, tucks her little paws, and that's it. and it was gone at that point. And I don't really know what to do, because what I want to do is leave. But I was like, I can't. I have nowhere to go. I would just be driving around in circles. I was like, this isn't my first night in the house. It's not even my first night alone. But I was just like, I can't go. I can't leave. I was like, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? You know, it's like I was like, I'm just gonna put on Conan O'Brien. I'm gonna just forget this whole thing ever happened, and I'm just gonna keep watching. You know, distract myself, and then until I can fall asleep. And that's what I did. I will the all three of those things happened in that house. Now I think there was some other weird shit that happened, but those are the three that I really remember. If the other ones were
That is
anything,
really
they were.
uncomfortable. Like, just thinking about it.
The
I was
wit.
kind of hoping, like, I was kind of hoping you'd say, like, when Fatty came back, like, all right, coast clear, boss. Just like
Yeah, that's sort of what she did. Obviously, she can't talk, but yeah, she was just like, because I don't know what's going on, because it sounds like and there's been multiple times in my life where I experienced things like this. I was afraid that I was going crazy, but I'm perfectly fine. I don't have any sort of mental illnesses, with the exception of an anxiety disorder that I'm aware of. But yeah, again, I do get checked. Um, I keep up with my health and everything like that, so I'm fine. I don't take any sort of medications, and it was a very weird thing that I hear this whispering, and the fact that it was approaching me was what was scary. It wasn't the fact that there was this incoherent whispering. If it was, I would probably have gotten up and walked around to try to see if I couldn't hear it in other rooms, and maybe try to find where it was coming from. But it happened so quickly, sort of from the moment I started hearing it, it was gradually getting louder to the point that it was it was basically whispering in my right ear. It was loud. And it was scary beyond belief, because it sounds to me like if I haven't impressed this point, it sounded to me like somebody with their face right next to my ear doing that, whispering incoherently in a volume that sounds like it's just next to my ear. Now, I didn't feel a breath on my ear. I didn't feel anyone moving or hear anyone moving or anything like that. Just the sound. And when seeing Fatty react to it, turning and looking at it, I didn't know what. To be honest with you, I was almost kind of praying that somehow she was going to save me from this. Though I didn't imagine how that would be a thing. But I was just all I was doing was looking at Fatty the whole time, because I didn't want to look anywhere else. I was too afraid to. And she's just staring over my shoulder, not angrily, just sort of curiously, almost just like, what am I looking at here? And then she gets up and starts walking to it, and as she walks to it, it's backing away. And it just continues to back away until she walks. I don't know how far she walked. She was only gone for a couple minutes, but she walked to it far enough that I could no longer hear it. I watched her walk away as I was hearing the voice fading. And until I couldn't see her anymore. And then she's gone for a few minutes and then comes back and just plops down and looks at me for a minute and then lays down, gets comfortable, and that was it. And it was over. And yeah, I remember those are the experiences that that sort of haunt me to this day. To be honest with you, I don't think anything else serious really happened in that house. But I will say that I am glad to be out of it, like very glad. And that's it. So I'll hand it over to you.